Hello. I've noticed that it seems that all of your prizes, the contestants would be a single person or a team. And I'm a physician also, but I've stopped practicing medicine in the clinic, but I like to say I have 6.3 billion patients, and my means of treatment is improving the environment. And when I look at what we really need in the next 10 years, is to completely get off old energy and completely get on renewables, the Apollo project sort of idea, but not just energy. It's also become a sustainable community. So if I'm thinking of a prize, I would look at something that involves not just a team, but a whole community.
Sure.
Say, can you become a completely sustainable system in 10 years? Something like that. What's the difficulty in expanding the contestant size?
So, great question. Thank you. We have spent a lot of time thinking about, first of all, I want to just make a very clear statement. Incentive prizes is not a solution for everything, right? It's got a subset, a minority subset of philanthropic subjects for which I think it's a great solution. The meme I put out there is that 5% of philanthropy, I hope someday, will be in the form of incentive prizes because it really is efficient, super highly leveraged. We have talked about, in energy, for example, a competition I call the 1,000 Household XPrize. It's an example. We've thought it up. I've been pitching it. Ultimately, we can't do any of these prizes until someone steps up and says, I want to do that prize. So in this construct, any group of 1,000 households could register. Any contiguous group of 1,000 households, pick a zip code and so forth. And it would be, again, this notion of $50 million prize. I'm just throwing out the numbers. And you'd have hundreds or thousands of 1,000 household groups around the country register to compete. What they would have to do is submit their energy bills for the last 2 years, and then the 1,000 households who reduce energy consumption the most over the next year or 2 years, whatever it is, wins, and it's $50,000 per household. But what's beautiful about the idea is you're knocking on your neighbor's door and saying, hey, buddy, change your windows, change those lights, because I want my kid to go to college, right? Another variant of that could be, in fact, around schools or religious institutions in communities in which the kids get college tuition paid. So you can imagine, I can imagine around something, these prizes have to be clear and measurable. You have to know what you're measuring and have a clear objective. If you can do those two things, you can design a competition that really is effective. And I really hope that we have a chance, in partnership with the right philanthropist or foundation, to experiment in that kind of a competition. I think it'd be great, and I agree with you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Bernadine Bednarz, and I chair a not-for-profit social enterprise committee at City Club here in Los Angeles. And I've been wondering, as I read your bio, Dr. Diamandis, what is Singularity University? How can we get in? What are the requirements?
Well, thank you for asking the question. 2 years ago, so there are a number of technologies in exponential growth. AI and robotics, nanotechnology, biotechnology, bioinformatics, computers and network sciences, neurosystems, human-machine interface. All these things are growing exponentially, doubling every 18 to 24 months. And these technologies are empowering the tremendous capabilities that humans have. But there's no place on the planet that you can go and really understand where are these technologies today, in 5 years, 10 years, and 20 years. So I founded, actually, my second university, Singularity University. It's based up at NASA Ames in partnership with Google, Autodesk, Nokia, Kauffman Foundation. And we hold a program for graduate students who come in for 10 weeks. And during those 10 weeks, you look at the world's biggest problems, you study all of these technologies, and then you start companies based on these technologies to solve the world's biggest problems. And we also run executive programs for CEOs and CTOs who should be scared about the technology changing their companies or their industries, but don't really know about it yet. And singularityU.org if you wanted to learn more. Thank you.
Another? So obviously you're really a small thinker. So tell me what you see as some of the world's biggest problems today.
So I'm a card-carrying optimist.
There's a card for that?
Yeah. And the biggest issues we have are energy, clean water, food, education, global health care. I mean, these are the things that we care about. Some people believe population, but if you saw the other things, I think population takes care of itself. And I believe that the technologies that we have, 3 or 4 forces going on right now. One force is these exponential technologies that are empowering tremendous things. I think that we're living into a future of abundance. What do I mean by that? If you look at the rate of solar cell production around the world, it's actually an exponential. It is doubling every 22 months. If you look at the price per kilowatt hour in solar energy, it's dropping at an exponential rate. If you project the numbers, first of all, the Earth is hit by 10,000 times more solar energy than we consume as the human race. Not twice as much, 10,000 times as much. If we're able to convert 1/10,000th of the solar energy into energy, we would meet all of our energy needs. And we don't see it. The exponentials sneak up on you. But within 20 years, we have the potential to meet 100% of our energy needs by solar. 2 years later, we've doubled that. 4 years later, we have 4 times energy that we need to consume. If you have abundant energy, you have abundant clean water. There's not an issue of water on the planet. It's an issue that 97.6% is salt water, 2% is ice. We fight over 0.5% of the water on this planet. If you have abundant energy, the ability to desalinate. In addition, there's a whole bunch of nanomaterials, nanopores that are giving that. So I think clean water. We also are entering an age where we're going from evolution by natural selection to evolution by intelligent direction. You've heard about Craig Venter, who just created synthetic life in May of 2010. He's working on algae that will be able to convert sunlight to feedstock 500 times more efficiently than we do today. We have the ability to address some of these global challenges. That's what we talk about at Singularity University, and that's what, with the XPrize, we want to inspire teams to be able to solve these issues.
Great. Before we move on to the next question, 5 minutes to vote. So for those of you who haven't pulled out your, do we have that slide up again? For those of you who haven't pulled out your cell phones yet, I've never said this before, but take out your cell phones while we're talking. And there's the text. It makes a difference. This is very cool. This is technology at work. So you mentioned what Craig's doing. Who do you think else is doing? Who do you admire? Who do you think these guys are doing amazing work right now?
Wow. I mean, there's a huge amount. One of the things I find interesting is that philanthropists of this era, this decade, many of you in the audience here, as compared to the philanthropists of 100 years ago who used to put their names on museums and so forth, are now saying, what problem can I go out there and solve? And what's interesting is that people now have the ability to go and solve an issue, to literally take their wealth, couple it with technology, couple it with passion, and go out there and say, I'm going to take and solve an issue, like Larry Brilliant, going and saying, we're going to knock out smallpox. So it's the ability to wipe out diseases or create new technologies to revolutionize how we educate. So rather than name individuals, I want to name the boldness and the audacity with which people can take on these things and say, I'm going to use my abilities to go and solve this problem. And actually, it's doggedly, right? It's all hard work, but it's a commitment to using all the tools you have to go and solve these problems.
Thank you. Is there a question in the back?
Hi. I just wanted to say first off that I think you have a very amazing mind, and I just wanted to pick it for a second, kind of changing the topic. You talked about a lot of major problems that you think about the world now, but what I'm focused on is homelessness. So I was wondering if you could just say a few thoughts about that and what you think maybe is a problem.
Sure. So first of all, whenever I'm looking at a problem, I think I look at it and say, what are the root causes of that problem? And it's really to attack the root causes of homelessness. And what are those? Is it education? Is it psychological and psychiatric issues? What might it be? You know, I'm proud. I'm going to have a difficulty remembering the name of this EDAR. Okay, so I remember a friend of mine who was inspired by the XPrize came up with something called the EDAR. You're familiar with that?
He won the first fast
Amazing. And so what I'm very proud of, he was inspired by the XPrize and ran the competition, I guess, up at the Pasadena Design Center. And so that was really cool, just a small aside. But, you know, I think it's what I ask you to think about is what are the root causes and knock out those root causes that cause homelessness in the first place. Pick one of those, the greatest one. I don't know them enough, and I apologize for that. But attack that, and then always the question is, what is the bold objective goal you want to reach, and what are you measuring? And then inspire lots of minds. I mean, the beautiful thing about today is that you can inspire people around the world to focus on your problem. So the question is, how do you inspire them to do that? Capital is one way, recognition is another, but really making them aware of, here's the issue, here's what we're measuring, how would you solve it?
So
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Last question that I don't let anybody leave without answering. So for the students here, my wife and I have kids who are about to go into college. We have college students here. What's your word of advice? What would you do right now?
I'm very clear about that. It's what do you love most? What are you most passionate about? Go and do that. Go. It's not what your parents want you to do. It's not what your advisor wants you to do. You can make a career out of anything. And if you want to do anything big in the world, you got to pick something you love. Because at 3 o'clock in the morning, when everyone else would give up, if you love it, you're going to push through and go and do it. I know the XPrize, you know, it took me a better part of 8 years to get it funded. A number of my companies I've started, Zero G does the weightless parabolic flights. We flew Stephen Hawking. I walked into the FAA in 1993 to get permission to do it. It took me 11 years to get approval from the FAA to go do that. I refused to give up. I was like, you know, you're going to retire before I give up. So it takes that level of motivation. So
Great,
do what
thanks.
you love.
So my wish for all of you is you guys get to live with the kind of passion that this guy obviously lives with. So thank you very much.
Thank you.